we have been known to bring an element of surprise, so to speak, when people walk in the door and they hear those strings and the echo in the home. And we had her playing on the landing leading to the second staircase, and it was beautiful.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals from across the nation, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with real estate agent Lindsay Gorman with Nika & Co. in Detroit, Michigan. Lindsay and I talk all things Detroit real estate and everything Detroit has to offer. We also hit on her really cool approach to open houses and how she uses them to create an entire experience so that you just know exactly what you're getting when you move in. And then stick around to the end for Lindsay's unique take on the timeline of goals. Enjoy. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kat. I'm doing very good. I'm excited to have this conversation, first opportunity or experience like this. So looking forward to the discussion.
Awesome. So let's jump right in. You've been an agent for about 7-ish years now, right?
End of 2017 is when I really started jumping in and calling it what I did. When people asked, yes.
Awesome. So tell us how you got started.
So prior to real estate sales, I was working for Quicken Loans, now Rocket Mortgage, for almost 6 years. I have a background in marketing and public relations, so I was doing that type of work for the mortgage company. And I knew the role I was currently in, I wasn't reaching my true potential in life in terms of I had all this energy, enthusiasm, wanting to grow, and all of these things. And so, what I thought I could do was Dan Gilbert owns a lot of companies, Bedrock, which I think still is their private real estate development and acquisition company. I thought I could make a lateral move to that company because I had no experience in how to determine whether or not this building should be part of a portfolio or anything like that. I was working at Quicken, wanting to make my next career move, thought Bedrock could be a cool opportunity, didn't have experience for a growth role. So taking something laterally, it really wasn't anything I was interested in. Although, if I had to do that to get my feet in the door or whatever, I was okay with that. At the same time, being in the heart of Detroit, because that's where our offices were located, overlooking Campus Martius, seeing the cranes in the air every day, going out for, a quick work break, grab a coffee, go for lunch. I wanted to be part of that energy that you really could start feeling back in like 2013, 14, 15. And I met Nika, my current broker, around 2016, 17 through mutual friends. I saw that she was out and about in the city all day long, running around, going into these really cool properties, meeting with very interesting people. And I thought, well, hey, maybe I don't need to go to Bedrock, but what about real estate sales? So, funny enough, because I worked for Quicken and mortgages are the product, there's a big push for team members to buy a house. And so I had already had my real estate license when I was looking for my own home. I was broke. I had no money, but Quicken's like, buy a house. And so I was like, okay, well, if I can get my real estate license, it's only 40 hours of classwork, take the state exam. I can basically get my down payment back in the form of a commission. So I was like, oh, even Steven. So I had my real estate license for that reason, to try to save money or to try to um, do what I could to get a house, and not knowing that it would actually be useful once I met Nika and decided that, hey, real estate sales might be something I'm good at. Let's check this out. It was never something I had friends who were in. I never had like a family member who I looked to who was a fantastic realtor. Didn't really know what the role involved. Um, but I got into it and I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Oh my gosh, that's such an interesting in. You're like, well, everybody says I have to buy a house and I need to find a way to do it and save money.
That's what we did. And yeah, so it's funny. I also got fired. I feel like I have to say this because some people like I got fired from Quicken. I don't know that I would have had it in me to leave because it was such a new role. Being paid on commission, not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from, all of these things. And so I really do believe some of those moments in your life where in the moment you're like, how am I going to get through this? There, you look back on it and you're like, wow, I needed that to happen in order for me to feel comfortable, confident to take the next step, or for me to realize like I had no other choice. I have to make this work now. And I remember the day I got fired, it was a Friday morning. I walked in. It was like they didn't even allow me to get to my desk. I got let go right away. I had no emotion really. I was just like, huh, this is happening. I remember calling Nika and saying, hey, I have to make real estate work. And she was just so supportive and was like, let's go. And yeah, she's been by my side. I've been by her side ever since.
Oh, I love that. And it's so funny that you kind of just like had this in your back pocket and it was just time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the cards aligned and it worked out for me. Right place, right time. I was very lucky and fortunate, so and I'm grateful still.
Well, that's so awesome. So, being in Detroit and working with Nika and Co, you guys do a lot of business with historic homes and like these just, if people haven't been to Detroit, you're really missing out because these homes are top notch. There's dozens of historic districts, Boston, Edison, Corktown, all of these beautiful places. Can you tell us a little bit about like what you love about selling in Detroit, like what you love about these neighborhoods? Paint a picture for us.
Yeah, so I live in the city myself. I live in a neighborhood called Brush Park. So it's a pretty diverse in terms of architecture. You have a lot of old 1800s built Victorian homes that have been converted into condos or bed and breakfast. You have a lot of new construction. It's very dense. It's very walkable to the entertainment district, the sporting venues, concert venues. So that's where I live. It makes sense for me. However, you mentioned a few different historic neighborhoods in Detroit, and each neighborhood, regardless of whether they share historic in the title or designation, they're very different in terms of personality. And so when I am working with clients who are either moving from out of state or, relocating, renting to owning, it's, you're signing up for a lifestyle in a way. And so some of the neighborhoods that we work a lot, we do a lot of business in, and we aspire to get more business in West Village, Indian Village, Boston Edison, some of the others that you list. What do I love about working in these neighborhoods is, the history. One, these homes, you can't recreate them the way that they were built back then. There's just the trades were different. They're beautiful, right? They're rich in history. You can be walking down the street and be like, oh, that's where Smokey Robinson grew up, or this is, Aretha Franklin used to sing on this stage, and it's powerful, right? So, what was the question again? I know we're talking, but
Yeah, yeah. What
I
you what
can
you love
ramble
about
all
Detroit?
day. What do I love
That's what
about
we're
it?
here for.
I so personally, I love dense cities. I love tall buildings. I love diversity. I love walking outside and being able to hear different languages, different dialects, accents, um, you know, the music history, the sports history, the restaurant scene, the cool, edgy factor. I love traveling. And when people are like, where are you from? I proudly say, well, I'm not from Detroit, but I live here now. So I say I live in Detroit. But I just, the looks, the questions that are asked immediately after you say that. I don't know if people are surprised when, I say that and they're like, oh, really? It's never like, oh, I heard so many cool things about that. They're like, oh, really? And it's repainting that picture. It's understanding what the perception is that others have of the city and being able to, either reaffirm that that is what's happening if it is a positive impression or a perception that they have, or completely changing their mind. One thing I like to say is when people do come to Detroit, I think because the bar is set and has been set so low, no one's ever like, I'll never come back. They're always like, wow, I was pleasantly surprised. I would love to return and visit again. So I just like Detroit because we're the underdog in some situations. I think people don't expect us to be able to compete maybe at like the national stage with some of these other major cities like a New York City or LA, Miami. Um, but just seeing what's been taking place over the last, decade, and even more so in the last like 12 months, it's very exciting to be here. And people from all over the world, we're on that global stage now, and I'm very fortunate to be able to be part of it in some way, some capacity.
I love it. And for people who are into investment properties and flipping, like Detroit has been a ripe market for flips because you do have these like beautiful historic homes that look good enough on the outside, but maybe on the inside need a lot of modernization. And I think you work with some investors, yes?
I've worked with investors over the years, absolutely. A few, we got into a really good fluid process of identifying opportunity, renovating and or restoring homes to maintain the integrity of the period in which the home was built, or just honoring some of the original features that these special homes have still intact. And then also being able to advise in terms of what do buyers want, and having investors that listen and incorporate those things, and you know selling properties and breaking records for neighborhoods and setting the tone for other people who are looking to sell and buy. And it's fascinating. Just one quick example, there's a street just east of Indian Village, it's called Fisher Street. I think back in 2017 we had a listing just south of Mac that we couldn't sell for $250,000. And I remember we had open houses. It may have sat on the market for about 70 days, maybe longer. But now that street, the home sales are going up to like $400,000. And well, all it takes is one, right? You have one comp, one recent sale, and then investors notice, they pick up the rest of the block, flip the homes, and then it just keeps going out, from those anchor staple neighborhoods like Indian Village to the fringe neighborhoods. And so it's cool to see. It's cool to see people gaining equity in their home. It's cool to see investors making a lot of money. And it's cool to be able to bring buyers into these homes. And hopefully, it's very low maintenance living, low headaches, no headaches, because they did a really good job flipping the house.
Yeah, you had one house, I think it was, hold on, I have it written down. 360 Lodge. Were you
Mhm.
the listing agent for that? Yeah.
I was the listing agent for that one, and that one actually is still available. So if there's any
Oh,
buyers out there that are looking for a beautifully restored 7,000 square foot historic home in Joseph Barry, we, I don't know if it was the timing at which we came to market, but the home renovation I think was about 16 months in length. I They purchased the property. It was completely gutted, framed out. There was just this beautiful checkered marble floor when you walked through the arched doorway, and this 10-foot tall, massive limestone fireplace. And everything else was basically just whatever you wanted it to be. But they restored that home beautifully. We tried selling it. The market just didn't support the price point at the time, and we have tenants in there currently, so it's still available if you know anyone.
okay. Well, it's gorgeous. Everybody should go to Lindsay's Instagram and look at the photos or, look it up on Zillow or wherever it is. But I think I saw a video. So I am curious because I think your open house was pretty interesting for this. Did you have a violinist at your open house?
We did, yes. So I'm not going to say that not every listing is special or unique, or but there's just some properties that command, I think, that next level extra factors. So for this open house, yes, we had live music playing, and refreshments, light bites provided, and we have been known to bring an element of surprise, so to speak, or um, when people walk in the door and they hear those strings and the echo in the home. And we had her playing on the landing leading to the second staircase, and I mean, it was beautiful. You could hear it as you were walking up the front walkway. Um, yeah, we do that for a lot of our properties. I've had people DJ open houses. I'm working right actually before this, I was on a call scheduling a rooftop sunset yoga class for next Thursday at a Detroit building where I'm bringing a condo to market. So open houses are fun. It's event marketing, right? It's an opportunity to create an experience inside a home, hopefully pull on some emotional heartstrings and get people to you know, want to see themselves living in the property and romanticizing it in a way. So, yeah, that's one thing we
I,
did.
I love it because I think it does all those things, especially like, a live, whether it's, a violinist or like a string quartet or something like that for a more luxury style home, like
Hmm.
that really sets the tone. And yeah, I love the rooftop yoga. All of that is so creative.
You're selling a lifestyle. You're selling a neighborhood. You know, some people, for instance, this condo, it's a new construction building and there's a lot of new construction options around the city. And so maybe somebody who's only looking in downtown or Brush Park aren't considering Midtown, even though it's very close or nearby in terms of geographical distance, but what does the midtown lifestyle look like? And I think that's what we're selling. Yes, we're selling a piece of property, real estate, but we're also selling the neighborhood. We're selling which coffee shop you're going to. We're selling what amenities this neighborhood has if you have a pet or, you have children. So it's our job sometimes to play tour guide and in these little pockets of neighborhoods because there's new things popping up daily, weekly, it seems, and we have to have people know about what's available to them.
It's so fun. It's like because I love the level at which you're doing it, right? It is creating that, 360 experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny, I'll have people who are maybe more of a sit at the desk job or, they used to rent downtown and now they own or rent in the suburbs. And it's, I think sometimes just fun to post on Instagram and get people to be like, oh, I love the way you take photos of the city, or I love the way you capture this for I think some people, when they're at their 9 to 5 job that they may or may not love and they're scrolling, I think sometimes it's just an escape for people like, oh, wow, Detroit's so cool. Or I didn't know that this new record store opened up or whatever it is. So it's cool to hear the feedback, I guess you could say.
Certainly. So, I think I saw on your website you really like to work with first-time buyers. Can you tell us your approach to helping first-time buying clients?
Yeah, I work with, a lot of different buyers. First time home buyers are a segment of people that I've helped and I help. And I think with really any buyer, because they say, I think if you haven't purchased real estate if you haven't purchased or owned real estate, I think in the last 2 years, you're considered a first time buyer. So a first time buyer could be a repeat homeowner or a previous homeowner. And I think just people that appreciate communication in a way that simplifies things. Um, I love the after the process, after it's over, after the home is closed or we found a whatever it is. I just love the wow, thank you so much. The almost just you feel satisfied in your role, like you helped somebody out. And I don't think that it needs to necessarily just be a first time buyer, but anybody who, at the end of the day, like you provided value, you provided service, you provided them with something that maybe somebody else couldn't have provided. And that's what it comes down to. I enjoy working with people who appreciate um, just that level of commitment to listening, to understanding what they're looking for, over explaining, over communicating. And, first time home buyers, they don't know what they don't know. Sometimes they don't know what questions to ask. They um, may not know what they can afford. They may think they know where they want to be or what type of house they want to purchase. And I think it's just exposing them to that unknown and just being helpful, saying, hey, let's go out. I know you're looking to be in this neighborhood, this type of house, but let's go over here and see this. And have you thought about this? And have you considered that? And I think it's fun to work with somebody on such a large purchase in such an intimate way. And when they appreciate what you're doing for them, that's all I need. That's all I need.
So, speaking of your clients, do you have any kind of like memorable client stories, whether just kind of the things that like stick out to you?
I mean, we should have a reality show. There are
Yeah.
just bizarro stories. They're very like heartwarming and oh, I'm gonna start to cry stories. There's just there's a ton of memories, right? I don't know why this one comes into mind, but well, okay, I'll say this one. So this woman, she's been trying to sell her condo in New Center for the last 2, 3 years. She calls me because I sold her friend's unit a few doors down within about 40 days. And she's like, been on market for 500, 600 days with other brokers. And so I meet with her. Try to figure out why the property had been sitting with other agents. And she gained her trust, gained her confidence. She decided she wanted to work with me to list her condo. And we put it under contract within 12 days, I think it was, over asking. So that's super memorable. The competitive nature there where I'm signing up to sell something that somebody else couldn't. In that scenario, and she's very, very thankful. We haven't closed yet, but fingers crossed we'll get there. And I mean, she'll be a client for life, whether she needs to buy something in the future or have a friend that needs to sell. Um, so I mean that's like the cool win for her story. And then there's some stories where you think you're picking up the phone and the person's fake on the other end. And so Nika had a listing on the golf course, the Detroit golf course. I had a guy call me saying, I want to make a cash offer. I go, okay, do you want to see the house? He goes, no, I'm out of state. I'm not going to come in for it. I go, okay. He's like, I'm going to waive inspection cash. We can close next week. I go, yeah, okay. So I put together the offer. It gets accepted. We have no inspection. The client never walks through the home. We schedule closing for when, at the time that we were able to schedule closing, he comes in for the final walkthrough before he's about to go sign paperwork. That's the first time I had ever met him. And so I'm like, hi, I'm Lindsay. Like, do you like your house you're about to go buy? So there's so many, nothing surprises me anymore in real estate. And there's a lot of memorable client experiences and homes that we walked through or have sold and stories that go along with all of that.
So, wait, so did he end up buying the house?
He bought the house.
So bizarre.
He bought the house. Yeah. Yeah. And I just remember asking him, so what do you think when he walked through? And he just, was very quiet. And I'm just like, God, I hope the photos match what the house looks like in person. You never know.
Gosh, I mean, and like on your end, yeah, he could have just been stringing you along almost.
Totally. Totally. But yeah,
That makes
he's local still, and he actually owns a clay tennis court slash like tennis club on the east or west side of Detroit. So once I got to know him and he was a real person, it was like, oh, okay, this makes more sense. But at the time, it's like, I don't know if this guy's gonna show up to closing or not.
right, right. Just quirky.
Yep,
That's
a
too
little bit.
funny. Wow, we're really getting to the good part, and I can't wait for you to hear what comes next. But first, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to make sure you are following and subscribed to the Closing Table podcast wherever it is you get your podcasts. Also, please leave us a comment or review. It is the best no cost thing you can do for the podcast, and it helps us grow and find more awesome listeners like you. Now, back to the episode. Lindsay, if you had to start over in real estate today, what would you do differently, knowing everything that you know now?
I think when I first got started, although I'm a confident person, I would have been more myself early on. I think early on, I entered an industry. eh, anytime you're doing something new, there's an intimidation factor, there's a learning curve. You're not the expert yet. So, being in that more vulnerable role had me interacting with people in ways that maybe weren't natural of me to be acting. I was not only in that type of role, but I had a broker who saw something in me, trusted me. I needed to make sure she, uh, maintained respect for me and trust and all these things. And this is how she operated business. So I needed to do exactly that. And again, maybe it wasn't very natural for me to do everything the way that she does things. And so and I don't know if I could go back and be more myself, but that would just be the one piece of advice. Just, you know, admitting when you don't know something, maintaining confidence, but just being more myself um, in everything I do. Because I think when you're yourself, you're going to attract the people that actually want to work with you. And those people will refer other like minded people your way, and that's who I want to work with at the end of the day. People that, want to work with me and we have things in common. And it's just overall a really great working relationship. So just being more myself, I think, earlier on.
I love that. And like I think it's so easy to look back and say things like that. No matter, what your life journey is. And sometimes I think it does just take time, right? So,
Absolutely. In anything. But now I don't know if it's just the length of time in the role, and where if I don't know how to do something, I'm just more myself and voicing, I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to figure it out and we're going to get this done. Or, I have some people that come to me and ask, "Hey, would you do commercial real estate, or would you do this for me?" And it's things that are outside of what I typically do. And I'll be honest, I'll be like, I have no experience doing this, but they want to work with me so bad that they're like, it's okay. We just want to give you a chance. Like, we want to work with you. So that's that's super cool to hear. What
yeah, I
about,
think that's how you know you're doing things right, right?
I guess so. Yeah, absolutely.
And would you say like a lot of your business has been referral based then?
It has been over the years. I When I met Nika, she was in a position where she was at the point where if she continued to take on more business, the level of service she was able to offer would probably, she may have dropped the ball, right? So she needed to bring me on board to help with her book of business and take leads that were coming through. So the first few years, I mean, she provided a lot of leads to me, whether that was coming through from her past clients, or she was really getting into like the branding and marketing herself in a way and creating the brokerage that we are now, because prior we were with a larger brokerage brand. For the most part, we don't pay for a lot of like advertising services. However, I think that's okay. But in times like now where it's more competitive than ever before, it seems like with realtors, I think a lot of people saw, in 2020, 21, and 2, when interest rates were basically 0% and there was a lot of money to be made. I think a lot of people were at their 9 to 5 that they didn't care for, and they were like, wow, I could go see these homes and be on the move and all of this.
Yeah, you do have a lot of people probably having entered the industry and they say the dropout rate is quite large or quite high percentage wise. Would you
I
say
think we were
like
just talking about like buying leads and lead sharing,
yeah,
and
yeah.
just like the referrals are great. And yes, that's like the best form of business. But also, I just think because of the competitive nature of, you can Google Detroit Realtor and I'm sure there's like 55 people that pop up. It's like um, you have to just do more than just rely on previous clients to send you business, right? You still have to go out there and try to gain new business and market and, spend money to make money and all of these things and cut through the noise, I guess, is really what I'm trying to say. Because there are a lot of options. That doesn't mean they're always good options.
So how important is like social media to you and like having a presence for that for your business?
Yeah. I mean, social media, look, it's free. It's a free platform. You can reach a lot of people. I'm not an expert with social media marketing at all, but I see that there's a huge opportunity to whoever it is that you're looking to work with, talk to that person with what you post. But I also believe in the power of print and non-digital platforms because there are a lot of people, generational, categories that aren't using Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or even email. So, I sent postcard mailings and I just got a call last week from a postcard mailing that I had sent 2 years ago. So, yes, social media is very important. I receive inquiries and clients through Instagram all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean they're selling or buying tomorrow, but people, I think, I'll ask people when I do talk to them, how did you hear about me? Like, how did you find me? And they'll say, oh, we've been following you on social media for a while and we're ready to make the move. So I think it's super important, but if you are going to use it, being consistent, right? You need to, and if people are just finding your page for the first time, does your page tell your story? So these are all things that I'm actually trying to work on for myself and making sure that there's a call to action if people do want to get in touch with me. Can they? Or do I have a website link out to schedule time on my calendar? I think there's ways to optimize it. I think it's important. I think if you own a business and you're in real estate, yes, you should be on all platforms, online or offline.
Certainly. And so that kind of leads us into my next question, which I was going to ask about your goals for this year. Would you like to share any of them with us?
Real estate wise or just personal
Oh, we can do
goals?
both.
Oh, okay, so yes, you need goals, you need a path. Otherwise, what are you doing? I mean, my goals are I have a sales volume goal I want to hit. I don't know if you want to know the number, but I have a sales volume goal. I am working on purchasing a piece of real estate for myself right now. I Travel is very important to me, so I have at least one out of country trip. That's a goal I want to be able to make this year. Um, I am big into wellness and fitness, so I have those types of goals set for myself. And I think it's important to, not only just to have the goals set, but revisit and, check in with them and how am I pacing with that number? It's almost halfway through the year. What can I be doing differently to get there, right? So yeah, I think goal setting, reflecting, checking in, measuring is important. And I also think, I the time piece of it. So I know it's important to sometimes create a goal and set a time at which you want to accomplish this by. I was listening to somebody talk and she was mentioning that, maybe remove the T, remove the time. And if your goal for the year, let's say, is 30 million in sales and you get to 10 million in 12 months, well, how long is it going to take you to get to that 30 million number, right? And the next tip, let's say it takes you 24 months to get there. Okay, can you do then 40 million in 16 months? And I don't know. I think as long as you're working towards your goal, it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there, but having those in plain sight every day, it just helps narrow your focus and it puts you on the path of knowing what you should be working on and when.
I like that a lot, especially if it's something you haven't done before, right? So hitting a new sales goal, you know, you don't know how long it's going to take you. Like you can hope. But I like that there's kind of an element of like data collection in there and
Mm-hmm.
then kind of resetting the goal. That's
Mm-hmm.
super cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think most people, it seems like they reflect towards the end of the year, they goal set at the beginning of the year, and they give themselves a year to hit those goals. That seems like what the traditional process is. And, you know, if I don't hit my number within that 2024 calendar year, that's okay. And I'm still going to go after that number. And I think setting the number and the bar very high, almost like when you do share that number with somebody or whatever the goal is, it should feel weird to say out loud because it should be so big and scary and how are you going to do that is going to be like a common reaction when you share it. Like, that's how I want my goals to be. And I think anyone can do whatever they want with discipline and focus and just stay in the course. So, goals are important. You should have them.
That's great advice. You mentioned travel. So do you
Mhm.
have your travel plans set up?
I like to wing it. I like having a little bit of
Oh, okay.
spontaneity in my life. So I do have a trip coming up next month. I'm going with a group of friends. I do a lot of solo travel. So this time it's a bit different. I'm going with about 10 people, and we're going to go to the south of France for about 10 days. And I say winging it because I'm planning to only bring a carry-on bag and fly standby. So if I get on the flight, I'll
Oh,
go, and if I don't, I'll stay back. But yeah, I'm planning to do France in about 30 days. Looking forward to it.
wow, that's so fun. And oh gosh, bless you. I don't think I could wing it like that, and I definitely couldn't just do a carry-on.
I know, I know. I'm gonna have to get like a lot of basics and roll them really tight and just whatever. The south of France, we're gonna be on a beach, and who cares?
Right. Yeah, those vacuum seal like bags so you can shrink
Or
wrap all your
buy
clothes.
a luggage over there and ship all your stuff that you buy back.
Totally. There's
Yeah,
options. Well,
there's
I
you
think
have to.
it's funny that you're going to France because I know you have on your site or your socials that you love Paris. So,
Yes. It's the background on my phone, the
oh,
Eiffel
is
Tower
it?
too.
Oh, and is that a picture you took?
I did, yeah.
Oh,
I'm obsessed with the Eiffel Tower at night when it like sparkles. I've been to Paris twice, so I don't know if that's enough times to say it's your favorite place in the world. And I don't like having absolutes like that's my favorite place. Like no, it's one of the places really enjoyed when I have traveled. So yeah, I hope to go back this trip too. Whether I fly into Paris or out, we'll see.
oh, that's so cool. I haven't been, but I hope to someday.
You will. You'll get there.
Thank you. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. Would you like to direct people how they can find you, how they can work with you?
Yeah, do you have like a link ability or do
Yeah,
I
we
just say
can
like my
link everything in the
Instagram?
show notes, but for the people who like to listen, maybe you just throw out your Instagram or
So, social media wise, Instagram is the platform I'm most active on. It's Lindsay.Gorman underscore realtor. Send me a message if you would like to connect or follow me. I'm pretty flexible in terms of if you want to grab coffee if you're local or set up a time to Zoom or audio call just to chat real estate. If you want to go do a yoga class with me or just want to say hi.
awesome. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much.
Thank you. This is fun.
Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please make sure you are following or subscribe to our podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. It is the best no cost thing you can do for us, and it helps us find more amazing listeners like you. We'll see you next time.